Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot on this Sunday evening. And today we're going to go over a topic which I think is yeah, sorry, that was a bit of a flap on the net. I thought, you know, uh, you know how it is in India at times. Okay, what are we going to do today in the evening? You're going to see a lot of things. We're going to touch base on first and foremost clearing doubts, Chinese doubts on India's space docking. Then there are a whole lot of Chinese narratives which I'm going to start debunking one by one. The fact that Pakistan is losing it with TTP, and then of course I'll need to bring home to you certain China's strategic misconception about our country, and then I'm open to questions. I mean, I'm not too bothered about time. Let it continue. Okay, but first and foremost, I'd like you to have a look at this, because this is a thought this is something which I thought I must share with all of you. I got this complaint from one of the viewers. He says, not very clear. I tried to expand it. General Shankar, I think your channel is being suppressed because it's not showing in the suggestions and notifications are not being delivered. I don't know if uh, any one of you have this similar problem. If you have this problem, please let it be known to me. I'd like you to put it in the comments, in general comments, or you can send me an email. Because I've already taken it up with YouTube, and they've said they will. At, at this point of time, they said no, they have nothing to say, and they convinced me there's nothing like that. If there's a problem, please let me know, and I'll take it up and we'll resolve it. Okay, let's get going. Uh, yeah, let's talk of clearing Chinese doubts about our space docking. If you remember last week, I had taken out this thing about the space docking, which the launch took place on the last day of last year, and the next thing is this docking which took place on 16th. Well, a lot of people had problems with this. They said, look, this is an animated thing. This is not the real talking which took place. So show us the real video. Well, I go with them. And we had some comments from China also, which I thought I shared with you. He says this kind of a small docking, each satellite here just weighs about 220 kgs. It's difficult to dock these two. And someone from China also said, they said, look, it's easier to do docking with an 8-ton satellite rather than a 220 kg satellite. Okay. And technically, that's the more difficult thing. Um, but what ISRO also concurs with it, he says, this is ISRO's statement. He says, because of its small size and mass, it is even more challenging due to finer precision required for a rendezvous and docking. Okay. But this is important if you want to go for Chandrayaan 4 and you want to do a lot of things. People, that's the actual state. We've done docking. But then what we many people have forgotten is we have major milestones in ISRO. We've done Chandrayaan 1, we've done a Mars orbiter program way back in Mangalyaan in 2013. We have a very successful Chandrayaan 2, right? And then Gaganyaan and a whole lot. Now we've done the space docking. I've also explained why space docking is important, right? Space docking is important. This whole technology is important so that tomorrow you want to have a space station, you need to have this capability of space docking and undocking. The second part of the story is undocking. Well, that's been successful. You want to go to the moon, you need to be able to undock and dock and redock a moon station. You want to go to Mars and land a Mars rover or anything, again, you need this capability. So far, which we didn't have. Manned flight, you need. If nothing, you need it for co-orbital capability, right? So you can go along with another satellite and do whatever you want with it. So this capability we have already demonstrated. Okay, but a lot of people said where's the video? And this is from China. Mostly all these chaps who come, where's the video? There's no video. Okay, uh, so and they say Israel has done a fake. Yeah, and they also have gone to the extent of saying you can fool Indians but not the world. The world means China. For them, China is the world because nothing exists beyond China. Okay. Then there's another guy who's not a Chinese. He says, "I'm not a video. The video you showed is not a real video. It's a graphic." And all. I agree. And he says, if it's a someone else again, Pekin Junoi, whoever it is from China. Largely, they're all from China. Though they say I'm not Chinese, they are all from China, right? It's not AI generated video, and India can't even build a good rifle. Talk nonsense about space and all that. India is bragging, doing nothing. I have no problem. These are all bots who will come and talk nonsense. All this. There is zero international media reporting about Indian satellites doing enough stuff and all that. So what I did, I went to the ISRO website. They put out a video, but it's private. For whatever reason. After all, there are security considerations. You don't have to tell everyone. One. Number two, everyone has acknowledged it, except, of course, these Chinese bots. Even China has reported it is done. But they all kept quiet because ISRO has got such a good reputation that, they've taken ISRO's word for it. But then there is a space community who watches all this. So I went around, started checking. There's this thing called S2A systems. And S2A systems is based in Switzerland. And this lot, they track all satellites. I mean, that's interesting. They track all satellites. And they've been tracking Spadex. That's the interesting part. Okay. So what did they do when they did all this tracking? Right? And I'll show it to you close so that you might have to, all of you, when you see this, you might have to see it on a desktop or something. On a mobile, you'll not be able to see what's going to come up. So Spadex has been tracked religiously by S2A systems. Okay, so now I'll show you one by one what they did. This is the first one. He says in this tweet, it will all come out in tweets. Us close monitoring of the Spadex mission on X has been going on for over 12 days. This has come out on 12th January, right? Which is longer than originally planned because the original thing was to take place on 9th. And we want to make sure that we don't start to bore you with high number of posts. So they won't know what everyone prefers. And the response was that 80% said, please go ahead and keep tracking Spadex and let us know at the same frequency. So they did it. Okay. And then this was on 12th, right? On 12th, they put out this tweet where the distance between both the satellites, they said we can confirm is about 15 meters. Just think, two satellites, small satellites, 15 meters apart, they were going and they're being controlled. That's some achievement. Okay. And this is the latest from the ISRO post, and they've tracked it and they've shown it because obviously you can't see at such distances. And this is their tweet. Please go and have a look at it. And then on 14th, see the two dots? He says they're now 1.5 kilometers apart. He says we were lucky with the weather, and Spadex was clearly visible, and he's put the date, and this was over South America. Okay, they're giving the location where they saw it when it was going over South America. And then they showed it on 15th. On 15th, the distance had come down to 1.2 kilometers. Again on over South America with the date and all that. Then the next thing came out again on 15th. They were 900 meters apart. They're tracking it. Every 300 meters, they're tracking. Okay. And you really can't see this. It's here. It's in that circle. You'll see if you enlarge this, you'll be able to see it very clearly. It's not so easy. Okay. And then they said, yeah, this is where they've said it has docked. Finally, good weather again. Spadex A and B on 16th, 25 at 1853 UTC over Australia. They've shown docking. We would like to thank you all for the motivating and encouraging feedback and comments here on X. It's really a great space community here. Right. Congratulations to ISRO's Spadex team for the successful docking. They've confirmed it. Okay. It doesn't stop there. It came from Canberra, DSN. They also said successful docking by Spadex mission ISRO. Right? And then 21st Jan, 5 days after it happened, Spadex A and B during 2 passes over Europe. Okay? And so far, we do not see any undocking. The undocking has not taken place till then. That's on 21st. Now, this challenging observation conditions, they didn't get a clear day. Okay. And again, this is on 22nd. It's still there. Okay. And that's when ISRO came out with the tweet. They said ISRO is planning to attempt another docking. So after the first successful docking, they're going to do undocking and then redocking. So it's not as if this thing. You can go through this tweet. Okay. They are currently in the midst of analyzing data gathered from the onboard sensors during the first docking. Once their analysis is complete, ISRO will do undocking and then redocking. So all this is there. If this is not proof, then what is? I don't know. Okay. And this is on 25th. Now he says Spadex A and B during pass over Australia today. That's on 25th. But even today in the afternoon, they put out one. Again, still, they're not undocked. Hopefully, things will dock up. And this is ISRO's thing, where they've said they've done the docking, undocking not done. Okay. Then the ISRO chairman has gone and had a full-fledged interview on Republic. So those of you who are interested, go see the Republic TV. I'm sure it will be available somewhere on YouTube. Have a look at it. So there is no way, let's be very clear that all this is very clear that it was a successful docking. Now we have to see whether they can do undocking and redocking. That's the plan. There must be something to it. And why they have not, declassified those videos? There's a video on the site. It's private. There must be issues. It's a matter of security. Right? At the right time, they'll put it out. What's the hurry? So all I'm saying is that this has happened. You don't believe it, you must be a Chinese. If you believe it, you're the rest of the world. Okay. So all these Chinese bots who are doing all this nonsense, take a walk. That's all I can say at this point of time. Okay. I'm now going to highlight to you China's strategic misperceptions of India. How they are running their own narratives about India and how do they perceive India. Okay. I went to, as you know, I keep reading this chap, Guancha, and this chap called Lin Min Wang. Okay. He is a researcher at the South Asian Studies of Fudan University. So he's put this article out. It says India is pro-US for 2 years and pro-China for 2 years. And why is India doing this? What are India's consideration for doing all this? So I put something out, but I thought I'll put it across because how they misperceive India comes out in this article. This fellow, when he writes in other, platforms, he's very careful, he's very balanced. But when he writes in Chinese, oh, he's all breaks off and let it clutch off, top gear, he talks all nonsense. Okay. All whatever he wants, they'll spew out. So what has he been doing? He says, I mean, in this article, and this article came about 2 days back. That's the beauty. Just 2 days back. He says it's the end of the India-US honeymoon period, and there are strategic differences and broken trust. Well, we had a problem with the Biden administration, but there was, and that was the end of the India-US honeymoon period. Not now. After Trump has come, 10 days after Trump has got installed, he writes this nonsense. So you imagine what's the credibility of these fellows who are, coming out with all this. Why? He says that assassination incident, Nijjar case. That's what he's saying. So the trust between India and Five Eye Alliance is gone. And then, the Indian industry is having a problem because being anti-China is unwise. Yeah, there are some chaps, I have no doubt. And he's blowing them up. So these three is the background on which he's built this case. Now, after building this case, he says India follows a strategy of 3 no's and strategic swinging. Then he goes on to say the Sino-Indian relations have gone up and down. So everyone knows that they've gone up and down. In fact, they've only gone down, not much up. Right. He says even now the improvement in the Sino-Indian relations is not great. And the space for being good bonhomie and all is very less. And he says there's no determination on the Indian side to improve the relationship. Okay. Yeah, why should I? Why should I improve my relationship with China? It's China's necessity. Okay. And if there is an improvement, he says it's not because India wants to become good with China. It's because there are setbacks with the US relationship. What a corny kind of a thing he's saying. Here, the first foreign minister met by Rubio was Dr. Shankar. The first external engagement Rubio had was with the Quad foreign ministers. Normally, it's the American tradition to meet the foreign minister of Canada and Mexico. That's their tradition. But this time he didn't do that. He met the Quad foreign ministers and Dr. Shankar. And here he says there is diplomatic setback with USA. Just think how foolish he is. How they misrepresent to their own public. See, if you open up Guancha, for the past 10 days, ever since Trump is coming or a little before that, 90% of the articles on Guancha are all about Trump and USA. It is as if there's no other world or country or person other than Trump and USA to talk about and discuss. And the only people who can defeat them is China. Okay. Nothing. They don't write anything critical about. There's no self-criticism about China. Not like Indian newspapers who will first criticize India. That way, Chinese are very nationalistic, communists. It doesn't matter. Their whole thing will be collapsing. But they will say, oh, China is the best. And we have to believe it. This is what they write. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense they write. Okay. And he says, India's policy towards China will be dare not conference, do not be neutral, and do not want to follow. So he's whipping up emotion within. He's portraying India as a weak state. Let me examine each of these. He says not daring to confront. He says the power differential between India and China militarily is so much that it is a major change that has not happened in a century. He says in terms of military strength, the gap between the two countries is significant, which makes India unwilling to stand at the forefront of confrontation in its relations with China. Yeah, for the past 4 years, after all, Mr. Xi Jinping thought he'll enforce a military solution on India. He came, he stood, he came 9 kilometers into Indian territory. Immediately after the Mount Kailash operation, he went back on Pangong. So now, after 4 years, he's gone back. So we are not daring to confront what an idiot he is. Yeah, a complete fake. See, this is the way Chinese are being brainwashed, and we need to understand by their own people. Communists brainwashing communists, ideal combination. Okay, so he said that India is scared of China. That's what he's saying to his people. Okay, and then India doesn't want to be neutral. India wants to side with USA and make use of this favorable condition between China and uh, problem with China and USA, and make use of this as a strategic opportunity to do what it wants. So India won't take a neutral position. That means India is scared, but India is against China forever. The way they are doing this, we should be very clear what the Chinese think before we let them in. We've signed, we've only banned 59 apps plus another 59 apps. We should double it. And we should throw the Chinese out. It doesn't matter whether we get the technology or not. First, throw them out. That's what. We don't want to be neutral. Let's be very clear. Okay. He says unwilling to follow. Whom are we being unwilling to follow? They want us to follow them. He says, faced with China's growing influence in Asia, especially the dominance in the economic field, India has proposed the concept of a multipolar Asia in an attempt to balance China's dominance in regional affairs. Whose economy is going down? China's. Who's the fastest growing economy in this part of the world? India. Whose demography is going down? China. We'll talk about that a little later. Their narrative. This narrative also will debunk. So this is the kind of thing. So they want us to follow. So what this fellow has said, we are scared of them. 4 years is gone, forgotten. Right? We will not be neutral. We will be with USA. And then we don't want to follow China because they expect us to follow them. This is the expectation. All this put together is very clear. And then they say, no, we are not interested in India. I'll talk of that also. So he says, in these conditions, India's strategic, choices will be swinging rhythmically. He says sometimes they will be with Russia and China, and sometimes they will be with the USA. So he has very cleverly put Russia and China in one group. That means he feels he is controlling Russia. He says they will be sometime with USA and sometime with Russia and China. He doesn't know we will be completely against China always. We will not be pro-China ever. Let Chinese, all Chinese understand. We are not pro-China ever. We might be with USA when it suits us. We are always with Russia, and Russia is always with us. We know that you don't have a good relation with Russia, barring Xi Jinping's period. But we have from I don't know when. And you guys don't know Russia. Okay? He's already sitting on half of your territory in Manchuria. And he says, till such time Modi is there, this will run. So he wants some Papu, Dappu and Kappu to come back, and then he'll, subvert them. And then India will follow China. That's their larger aim. Please understand this. Tomorrow when we, vote, we have to make informed choices about what China is doing. Right? So, but all this nonsense he has spoken. Look at this article. He says, in terms of same Guancha, this came over a week back. In terms of the cognitive space of India, many of us are one-sided or even incomplete. He says, look, and this guy says, this is not the truth. There's some other truth. And what is that truth? I've actually said this to you earlier, but let me put it again fully to all of you. He says, the Chinese view, he says, when we say we means China. Says we are too far from the Indian Ocean. He's accepting here that China doesn't have a leg to stand in the Indian Ocean. And our cargo ships go most to the Indian Ocean. Naturally, they go because there's oil there. Still 60% of energy needs go through Indian Ocean. And he says India has made progress in recent years under the leadership of Modi. India is undoubtedly the most promising country in this century except for China and United States. He says so. And that fellow says we are weak. Just think. He says Germany, Japan, Britain, France and South Korea have reached their peak. They're over. Russia has a shortage of population. Brazil and South Africa are not enterprising. Other countries are not enough to become a world power in terms of resources and population. India, which has a huge population, resources, and market, is more likely to rise. So, this is their view. Okay. And just think, there's that fellow who's supposed to be a think tank from Fudan University. He's spewing all nonsense. And here is this guy. They're worried. They're worried about India. Okay. I mean, let's not have doubts about this whole story that all this bravado of China not bothered about India and all that. They're worried. There's a strategy in this. And what is that strategy? This is the strategy. I've spoken about this earlier. I'm again saying the normal thinking and talking and all their bots who will comment and all that will say China does not discuss India. Okay. And they will also say India doesn't figure prominently in any channel except in South China Morning Post or Global Times, and that too occasionally. That's their alap. बोलते रहते हैं ये. But the fact is, China is besotted with USA. Like I told you, 80% of their thing is about Trump and USA. Today, you take guancha.cn. Guancha is guancha.cn. It's all be on Chinese. Put translate, you'll get to know what their articles are all about. They'll worried about Trump only. Okay? That's the thing. Why they don't want to discuss about India? You have to understand this. He says discussing about, the way I look at it, discussing about India means acknowledging that India is their competitor. They don't want to acknowledge that. They don't want to tell their people that India is progressing. Such articles you will find once in 2020, once in a month or two. By mistake, it will come. Okay. So, this is something which we need to understand very clearly, right? That China is playing a game. It acknowledges that USA is its competitor, but not India. And everyone says, no, we're not bothered about whatever you write, all that. Let me also tell you, let me tell all the Chinese bots or the communist guys or people who use Indian names, you can make out when they use Indian names and come and appear. Or there are guys who are staying in US, UK, who are also bots. Chinese. You mean to say there are no communists there? They're all communist sympathizers. They also come and say the same story. We understand. For all these fellows, I would like to say, my sources invariably are 100% Chinese. I don't quote. Have you seen any quotation from an Indian newspaper? It's either Chinese or neutral or international. Okay. So let's be very clear about what I'm doing. I should make it very clear to you. And this is their core view. There's one guy, Aam Aadmi, who said so. Let me read it out. India must always be contained and should not be careless. They should not be careless. The reason why India vigorously develops aerospace technology is that it wants to exchange aerospace technology for military technology from the West. Once India's military rises, it will invade the Himalayas, right? And that is China's territory. Because this is the source of the China India river. They're worried that we will take the river sources. Okay? Whoever controls the water source can strangle the other's dead whole. It is a must win for China and India. Now, China's control is friendly to India, hardly. But that's his narrative. But once India controls and cuts off China's water source, China will face a huge crisis. China will face a huge crisis whether we do anything or not because they don't have people and their water is shrinking. It's all contaminated. Treating each other with benevolence and righteousness does not mean that the other party also understands what benevolence, justice, courtesy, wisdom, and trust are. I mean, this fellow says that Chinese are benevolent. Have you ever heard of this except from a Chinese mouth? It's like a donkey braying and saying, I'm like Lata Mangeshkar. Okay. Maybe our benevolence is just a manifestation of cowardice in the eyes of the other party. In 1962, we retreated 20 kilometers of troops. India is continuing to encroach on our territory. Don't have the fantasy of vegetarianizing about jackals, tigers, and leopards. In order to avoid the consequences, we must establish the containment of India as a long-term, unswerving national policy. This is their view. And you think we can make good with them ever? I don't think so. So, what I want to conclude in this part is China has huge strategic misperceptions of India. It thinks that we are worried about them. It thinks we are scared about them. We can't confront them. But at the same time, they're worried. They're worried, I've shown you, that someday when we rise, they'll have a problem. Already they have a problem with where we are. Our rise is certain, and their decline is also certain. And I've been saying this for the past 4 years, and whatever I have said has come correct so far. So let's see how the dice rolls. Yep. Now we're going to talk about Pakistan losing it with TTP. Something very interesting is happening. You know, all of us have read about Pakistan having problems with TTP, things like that. I think the problem is getting more, complicated by the day. Now it has started affecting their internal issues also. Superficially, you don't understand it. Okay. I've earlier examined the Pakistan versus Afghan angle and all that. Till, the other day I read this article by Muhammad Amir Rana in Dawn. It says negotiating with terrorists. He writes a lot about security affairs. And he's written extensively about, this Taliban and TTP and all that. So this article, I found it very interesting. What does he say in this article? He says when it comes to addressing terrorism, there is a divide between the military and political leadership. And it is stark. So they don't know how to handle this whole story. The military leadership favors a coercive approach. And the political leadership wants a political settlement. And he says this divergent idea became evident when there was a meeting in Peshawar about 10-15 days back. The chief of army staff went there with the politicians and they had an issue with each other. Okay. Further to that, there's this, if you remember, those 16 or 18 nuclear scientists were kidnapped by the TTP. Out of them, one has been found dead. Why did he die? Wherever they were kept in a hideout, the Pakistanis shelled that place. carried out operations. And the way ham-handed method Pakistan army did, one chap died. So only his body was given in the shell after shelling. He was shelled and killed by Pakistanis. Instead of rescuing, he's killed. So the others also will meet their end. But then let me analyze this story a little bit. This divide between the Pakistan army and political thing, where is it heading? Let's talk about the military. See, there's a clear incapability of Pak military to do anything against the TTP. The last time they went and did all the action in Waziristan and all these places, and did what they had to. They displaced the TTP, but they also did a lot of displacement of Pashtuns in that along the Durand line, for which so far they have not had a solution, and they have not won back the people in that belt. This time, Azme Istakam is going on for 6 months, but Pakistan army has not been able to do anything. Right? Why? Because the Pakistan army is still focusing on J&K. It is focusing on India. That's their prime reason of existence. And they are worried that they'll lose J&K. They already lost elections. Do baar ho gaya udhar. There's Aman and Shanti firing. So they have to do something, and they don't have the capability. They don't have the capability. That is very clear. And they don't have the capability to handle J&K or create problems in J&K. And they are not able to handle TTP also militarily. Okay, but they have time to do great power games. We are still the strategic frontier, all that. They're doing China's bidding. They're equipping themselves with submarines and latest aircraft and ships and all. And they want to ensure with China there'll be a great naval power. Their focus is somewhere else. Okay, and that's the way they'll stay in power. That they are the ones who are dealing with China. No one else can deal with China. We'll sort out India. All that nonsense they'll keep talking, but they will not be able to sort out TTP. Okay, and they'll be making money out of this whole story. Jahan se paisa aaya. And they want to now get to Bangladesh. This incompetent army, which has never won a single war. They say Pakistan is the most professional army never to have won a single war. They'll do everything except sort out TTP. So militarily, Pakistan is in a position where they cannot do anything against the TTP. That is what their people are saying. That follow. Okay. Now, what about the politicians? Let's talk about the politicians. We know that politically everyone is weak. The PTI government in, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa doesn't want to do anything. Shahbaz Sharif government is not capable of doing anything. So politically they can do very little. Okay. They don't have any credibility. They don't have credibility internationally. They don't have credibility in the Arab world or the Muslim world. They don't have credibility with TTP. They don't have credibility with the PTM, Pashtun Tahaffuz movement. Okay. They are not even relevant in the national fabric as of today. Shahbaz Sharif ko bolega wo bat. If the chief of army staff says sit down, Shahbaz Sharif will sit down. Uto, so he'll stand up. He's like a monkey. Okay. But they want to be in power. See, that's the point. They're part of the elite. They want to be in power and make money. So the only point of congruence between the political system and the military system in Pakistan is they want to be in power and make money. Okay. So they can't sort out a TTP. Now let's look at the TTP. TTP has been growing strength to strength. Earlier also, Pakistan had treaties with them and deals with them and all. TTP has broken everything. And TTP takes a maximalist position without budging. So there's no question of, any deal. But one thing TTP has is they've developed local support. Why? Last time around, there were so many displaced persons, people, IDPs, internally displaced people in this entire Durand Line belt. So the local support is not there. They don't want to support the Pakistan army or the state to carry out any operations. They don't have money also. Neither the locals have money, they are in a poor state. Pakistan army भी तो कंगाल है. अभी तो US aid भी बंद हो गया. So they are in a bad shape. Now TTP and BLA are now coordinating with each other. On that, there's no doubt about it. Right? And must remember, one other thing which Pakistanis are worried about is like, this is the same. Why should we make a deal with them? These are the same people who did that Lal Masjid massacre, AP, Army School massacre. After all, the same guys, these TTP people killed children in that army school. Who are the children who were killed? The children of army people. And against them also, these chaps are not able to do anything. Now, what's the equation between Taliban and TTP? They are good friends. Okay. They're good friends. They have equations with each other. No two Pashtuns will fight with each other. But I'll tell you a story in the end. That's a different thing. Then another thing, you think you can sort it out through Afghanistan? Forget it. In Afghanistan, 3 days back, a Chinese engineer was killed. Some time back, there was an attack on Chinese who was staying in a hotel. Pakistan, we know how many people have been wiped out. So the Chinese were also at risk. Now, who will help whom in this belt? You see how desperate their situation is. And over and above that, there's also this thing which is coming out now. Okay, they are worried. India has started this is coming down again. It's a big analysis. India's coating of the Taliban. So you have done one pincer move. So this will ensure there'll be no peace and I wouldn't say no peace. We'll do what we have to do. Taliban will make a choice whether to be friends with Pakistan or with us. Who will give them more goodies? That it comes down to that. So what do? We should do everything to ensure that Pakistan remains fixed on the western border. Not that we have to do much. So far, I have done this analysis from an outsider's viewpoint. Now I have explained to you what is the inside thing which they feel they are not able to go far and then they don't have a hope. So if they don't have a hope, now we need to have a game plan to bottle Pakistan, and so that this nexus between Bangladesh and Pakistan, which is starting, is snipped. We have to think as to how to do this. Is it only through Taliban, or there are other methods? Right? There are, which we will discuss as we unroll things. I'll discuss those things also. Right? And so this is where it is. Pakistan is losing it with TTP. We should know. We should have strategic patience to let them lose even further before, we have to resort to doing anything. Ideally, we shouldn't. Ideally, we should let Pakistan stew in its own juices. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk of the narratives which China is peddling around. You see this? Xi Jinping with this book of narratives. This is Xi Jinping's edition. So I thought, let me speak to all of you about the narratives, some of the narratives which are floating around. And I'll keep coming with these narratives on and off. So the first narrative which has started. China's population is stabilizing. We all know that China's population is decreasing. There's no doubt about it. But now they say, no, it's stabilizing. So what have they said? Look at this article which came out last month. This is about 15 days back. China's population has dropped, but the number of births have increased. So that's why they say stabilization. Population overall has dropped, that there's no choice but to say this thing. But they say since the births have started going up, it's a good sign, we'll stabilize. That's the narrative they're putting out. Okay. But then within the matter of 1 week, they counter their own narrative. Somehow. He says, babies will be there in this year. Last year they went because the Chinese government told everyone produce babies, produce babies, produce babies. They produce babies, some of them. But now it will not happen. And the reason why it will not happen is because the number of their marriages are going down. I had spoken about this when I discussed the demography of China. So the number of marriages which are going is going to hit an all-time low. If there are no marriages in 24, how will there be babies in 25? Just think. So see the narratives. They get caught in their own narratives. So if you see a narrative on its own, it seems something. But actually, when you go closer and be patient, the Chinese start lying, no? So it will come out on its own. Okay. Then narrative 2. This is a great thing. China is an ordered and peaceful society under the Communist Party. शांति है सब कुछ. ये तो heaven on earth है. Middle kingdom है ये. Everyone is nice, respectful to each other and all that. So this is the narrative. So what's the reality? So 36 driver, if you all know, 36 people were killed when 62-year-old chap went in and killed them the driver. And then another 40 were injured in that. That is one. Plus there was a knife incident. We have a lot of unrest. Now, after that, what happened? Okay. Then the Chinese, all Xi Jinping and party went into overdrive. They tried to erase everything. All, no talk on the internet, no nothing. No memorial for them. Nothing. They didn't allow anything. It was as if that didn't happen at all. Right? Did it stop there? No. They replaced the local officials. Unrest is there. They first erased all signs of unrest. Then they sacked the locals. But the cause of the unrest is not the local officials. It is the Communist Party of China, who have created conditions because of their economic thing, Xi Jinping and company, going back into from the time they had this two-child policy or the one-child policy. That's how this whole story has come about. Okay, local officials were sacked. The guys who were actually to be blamed because of the macro policies, they are living happily. Okay, and then without any trial, nothing, he's been executed also. And there's people who are putting flowers and all finished. So the matter is over. It's all brushed on the carpet. But then some guy has written, it's this. He says, all this you can do. There is feeling within the people that comes out. He says, China authorities may struggle to address people's emotional needs. You see, these guys who are in Hong Kong, they have that little leeway to talk, and they are talking. They'll talk once in a while. If you keep tracking, it comes out. So there is problem underneath. All these Chinese fellows who will come and tell on one thing, oh, everything is good, India is useless, India is nonsense, all this nonsense, they'll talk. They're all bots. We know that. Look at this reality. The reality underneath the veneer of China is horror. Okay? What is the third narrative? The third narrative is China's economy has stabilized and is growing. That's the third narrative. This is a big narrative which many in India believe. Okay, let's see what this reality is. 2-3 weeks before the GDP was to be announced, their propaganda chaps were told to sing loudly about China's bright economic prospects. To Danka Bajao, pehle. Before the event, everyone was told you go everywhere and say, everyone should say China is doing well. Bas. Nothing else. Okay. Then Xi Jinping comes, he says, don't worry, everything is fine. We will reach 5%. So they reach 5%. We are on track. He also says. First propaganda that it will be 5%. Don't say everything good about the economy. Then this man comes and says it we have grown 5%. Okay. Then of course, like I said, 5% growth log. It's all published all over the world. And it says because of the stimulus has worked 5% growth, and now they're giving another stimulus. We'll see the story after 2-3 months. Nonsense fellows. But यार ये बताओ, this is the Shanghai index. Okay, the stimulus, not stimulus, the whole story, of the GDP was announced here. This for this month, last 1 month. That 5% was announced here. After that, the GDP has gone down, or rather, the market has gone down. Just think, you announced 5% GDP, which you have set at the beginning of the year. And if you announce that, there should be happiness. You've done a stimulus, everyone should be happy. How are shares going down? And this is the Shanghai Composite Index, not BSC. Yeah, our economy in this has not done well. So our stocks are going down, our shares are going down, our stock market is not doing well. But their stock market is doing, their stock is, their economy was supposed to be grow very nicely. So what's happened to this Shanghai index? And you just see, this is over the past 3-4 months. You look at this, in here, this is when they started the stimulus in September. They gave the stimulus, pushed everything up. After 4 months, where are they? They are here. There's hardly here. They're hardly at the peak of last year. And it's going down. This is the reality. This is the narrative they're building, and this is the reality. Okay, is that all? Okay. The central government is telling the local governments, where you are all under debt, take care. Don't spend. So if they don't spend, the GDP won't go up. So don't have projects which you can't handle because they are all under debt. That's the biggest thing is local government debt, right? And then Shanghai has got a shock in consumption. Their retail sales are falling. This is what their headlines, not my headlines. Okay. Then their salary caps. People are not, they cap their salary. Why they cap the salary? Common prosperity. That's the story. But the fact is they can't pay. If they can't pay, they can't give more salary. If there are no more salary, there's no consumption. If there's no consumption, factories will go down. It's a cycle. They're caught in this deflationary cycle. But the narrative is they are not. Okay. Then the top exporting regions have already pared down their GDP. All this is in the past 10 days. He says, this fellow, he's done an analysis. He says, beyond quick stimulus, China needs deeper, more fundamental reforms. Just doing stimulus is not enough. You see, the problem with China doing all the stimulus is that at some point of time, China won't be able to do stimulus. And the inflation will start going over the top. It will happen. Just watch the fun. Yesterday's news. Their factory is in the contraction zone. Factory activity. It's called the PMI, Purchasing Managers Index. That's gone down. It's gone down below 50. Anything below 50 is in deflation zone. This is the actuality. See, the narrative is they've stabilized the economy, but this is the state. Today, 2 hours back, Guangdong, which is the manufacturing hub, okay, it's missed its GDP target 3 years running. And that too after all pump priming it and all fake everything. So this is the reality of China. Narratives. I have put forth to you 3 narratives and debunked them, plus their attitudes. So I leave it to all of you to decide and think. as to where China is headed. In my way of thinking, it's not going to go through a lot of pain. And we need to be prepared for it because China going through economic downturn has implications for India also. We have to understand that. It has implications for the global economy and for the Indian economy. And at the same time, there is also a opportunity in this, which we have to take. There is an opportunity, but for that we need sense. Okay, I'll now take your questions. Yeah, the first question which I'll answer is of JBJP. Ask how will tariff war, if Trump unleashes it, will shape up between USA and China? Will the next 6 months give us a picture or even earlier? You'll get it earlier. Already you're getting it without the tariff war. If the tariff get in, the thing will be going even worse. But more than that, I'm very glad JBJP has come back on gunner shot after a long time. I must tell you all. Yesterday, I was with on Jaipur Dialogue. So JBJP comes with a paid question. क्यों भाई तेरे को अनपेड यहाँ सवाल का जवाब मिल रहा है यहाँ नहीं आते हो वहां जाके पैसा देके you want some answers from some fools. Go ahead, all the best. Okay, China does not earn much through domestic market, but through exports, which has reached 1 million more. And yeah, I agree with all that. But there's a limit to that. And that limit will soon reach. These are all pumping up. You see, why they went trade surpluses before Trump uh, assumed presidency, a lot of export took place so that they beat the tariffs. So the stock is lying somewhere else. It will not get sold just because they've exported. They exported out of China. They're lying somewhere. Till that stock dissipates, more stock can't go. That's the reason why this surplus has come. Okay. Yeah, seeing the upcoming water scarcity and glacier melting, what is the national and global initiative India is part of? We know the Brahmaputra Dam is Chinese answer for upcoming global challenge. Yeah, we have to do something. On that, I have no doubt. I don't know whether we have done something in the way we are thinking, but we need to. We need to do. Right? Uh, Climate change impact, will Singapore, Mumbai, etc. go underwater soon? Flash floods are the new. I don't think there is that kind of a thing. There are some parts of Mumbai and Singapore which will go underwater, but not beyond a point. Okay. Uh, Strat News Global is talking about Iran's new drone Gaza with 35 hours flight time. How true? Possible. It's not. Look, I mean, I really have not gone into it, but it's possible. Look, China ka narrative, it's like Ramayana only. It is their version of Ramayana, so forget it. Sir, you are forthright in showing a mirror to China. Salute you for opening our eyes to reality. Same may be in India, your view. Yeah, I agree with you. We have problems. I've never hidden our problems. You see, that's the difference between democracy and an autocracy. In democracy, all these problems come out, they get discussed. If you don't like the government, you throw him out in the next election. But not in China. The dictator hides everything. And then he paints a rosy picture as if he's gorilla or King Kong. When he's not. He's full of air. Here there are enough people criticizing. Why should I criticize my government? There's an opposition to criticize the government. So, Congress is there, AAP is there, Trinamool is there, DMK is there. They're all criticizing. Let them do it. Democracy hai. They are showing the mirror to the government and the government is reacting. See, why am I talking about China? Because the truth doesn't come out. We all fall for its propaganda. So I'm doing that pardafash on their propaganda. You don't have to pardafash on Indian stories. Yeah. How is China media reacting to Trump taking over as US president? Horrible. I told you 90% of their coverage is on Trump. They are very worried. It's not post 20, January 20 alone. For the past 1 month, initially the stories about Trump and USA were about 50%. Now it is 90%. So they are worried. They're very worried. How does the salary in China compare with India? How are they able to produce at such low rates? Cost yet profitable? Are we missing it or something fundamentally wrong with us at all levels? No. The Chinese per capita is going down slowly, especially in rural areas and all. It is horrible. In the rural areas, it might be today lesser than India. Okay. They are having a difficult time. People are saying it's a middle income country, but I don't exactly believe it. Because if you inflated everything, you'll inflate the incomes also. The true story of whether it's a their incomes are okay or not is coming out in the fact that they're not able to spend. As simple as that. Okay, Z's playbook on narratives is a mashup and remix of Sun Tzu doctrine. Now, Sun Tzu was one of the many students of Bharat Acharya. Yeah, I saw. You have a nice way of putting it. I agree with you. Right? Yeah. What is happening with DMK and governor? They're fighting. That's about all. Yeah. Shouldn't India be focused on boosting their internal consumption than picking more fights? Are they taking any steps towards improving their internal consumption? They can't. It's a Chinese character. They'll not spend. They don't know how to consume. They don't know how to consume because they're not getting enough money to, spend. You see, they have lost it. All the middle class and the upper class all have lost it during the property crash. Okay, they spent money buying a flat. That flat is now not even worth 60% of what they spent. They lost money. So why will I go and buy a heater or a AC or a car? They are today. They have. I think China has come out with a thing that if you go and buy a mobile phone, you will get some $70 off, depending on which kind of a phone you buy. That's their, that cash for clunkers deal. Last month they did it for cars. Now they're for mobile phones. See, any household will go for all these deals once. The second time they'll not go. Then what happens? After all, if you buy a mobile phone, at least for the 3 years you'll have it. A computer means at least 3 years you'll like to keep it. Once you'll do this swap and get a rebate off, second time you can't. How many times can you keep giving the swap? That's the point. There's a problem. China is working under an archaic communist regime that exploits its own people as slaves to achieve so-called national objectives. China will find acceptance in global order if it embraces democracy. That won't happen, Tripathi ji. So let's see. Okay, do you think Bangladeshis have a military culture to raise a large army? They are street turmoil, protest, anarchy types. Are they warrior types culturally? I don't think so. That's not, see, in that part of the world, there have not been great battles. Military history, hai nahi, historically. So that's how it is. It's not South Asia. We should call Indian subcontinent. Don't speak like Pakistan. Yeah, I agree with you. It's Indian subcontinent. So we say Pakistani analysts are fool, but same people give lectures in us our respectable think tanks about politics in South Asia. So our US is also fooling, or are we missing something? Look, let's be very clear. Our narratives have not been good. Our way of our think tanks have not done well. Let's accept. The Pakistanis have built a better narrative. The Chinese have built a better narrative. That's the first part. Secondly, historically, there's not been much trust between India, US, and the Europe. We've not been good at each other. Okay. So it will take some time, but sooner or later they have to come around. In fact, they've already come around, so don't worry. Okay. Ideally, India would spend more on military once we had at least 5,000 USD per capita, around 7 trillion GDP. Today, the country has pressing need to spend on physical infrastructure and skills for the next decade. Hmm. But our journey to 7 trillion is under threat, and some adjustment to increase defense spending are required. There's no doubt about it. And there are methods of increasing defense spending. You tap the market and be competitive globally and increase your defense exports. You can do it. There are methods. Yeah, we are not doing taking that route. Pak is losing geopolitical relevance as other geographies gain traction. After all, after the AFPAC imbroglio and fist fight, the silver of a sliver of a remaining Pakistan would be relevant. Your views? Yes, that's the danger Pakistan faces. That's the danger Pakistan faces. How, as a professional, how would you rank authenticity of Global Firepower Index, which downgraded ranking of number one army in universe after skirmishes attacks under on? Look, that's all motivated. These indices and all are all paper indices. What happens on ground is something different. So let's not even waste our time in it. So, what is stopping the West and Europe in investing in India significantly? Are these countries comfortable with totalitarian regime, as they will not be accountable and assured of windfall profits? Yeah, to a large extent, that is there because China just allowed anyone to come and invest and said fine, and we didn't allow because we had our own issues, or our tax regimes, or labor reforms, or land reforms are not done, and for good reason. We are a democracy. It's good we go slow. There's no hurry. We have to do things surely and steadily rather than going fast like China and regretting at leisure. Chinese can never be trusted. Trust them and they stab the truster in the back. Or Itihasa is replete with example. Yes, we trusted them before 62 and they stabbed us in 62. We trusted them after 2003 and they did Eastern Ladakh on us. How can you? Okay. China's state-owned oil company Sinopec signed an agreement with Sri Lanka government to accelerate building of a 3.7 billion refinery in the port of Hambantota after Sri Lanka's PM visited India. Yeah, no, this was when the Sri Lankan president had gone to China. This was signed. That's an investment. There are issues. I agree with you. There are, that's at Hambantota. So if you put oil refinery next to Hambantota, then ships will have to come there, and then Hambantota starts getting used. So there are worries for us in this, and we'll have to see how it will go because this is only an announcement. The oil refinery has not come. Let things play out. Okay. Yeah. Karan Pandey joined after such a long time. Once again, great research. Thanks a lot. Okay. Yeah. How can India improve its relationship with Nepal, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka? As these countries are more inclined towards China. No, we have gained something back. We have to be careful in ensuring that we ensure that Nepal, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka are back in our fold. That's the challenge before us. Let's be very clear. Uh, I see. Okay, now let me go to the end again and see if there are any major questions. Is Netanyahu being sidelined by Trump, forced to sign a deal by Trump's Middle East envoy in hostile Shabbat meeting? No call by Trump to Bibi. Gazans let back. No, it's not so. I think there's more to it than meets the eye. We have to be patient. Okay. Mm. Yeah. India has 160 plus above million above 60, no infra, healthcare awareness to support them. A few years from now, the numbers will increase much more. Are we going the same way as other countries? It's not so. Our health and welfare is much better in many places. Okay. Uh, we have a problems. On that, I concede. We need to do more. There is no doubt about it. But it's not so much as we think it is. How risky are keeping China made phone by defense staff? Then any time, no location. Yes, I agree with you. There's no question of the anyone in the uniform holding a Chinese mobile phone. They don't do it. Yeah, will we see in 2030 to 2040 war with China? I don't think so. Yeah, you're right. Middle class and below in China are earning a lot less, and they have no savings. Don't have even property value. They're in big problems. It doesn't come out. The Chinese government will not tell us all this, because if they tell them, they'll be out of power. The Chinese communists will be out. In fact, the Chinese communist system is at an inflection point at this point of time. It is to be seen whether they'll survive as we go down the line. As their population keeps dropping, you will see more problems. You see, one of the biggest problem why China will not come out of it is they put too much money into their defense. They militarize, and that military equipment is not being utilized. It's not giving them return of investment. They put a lot of money into debt instruments abroad. That's not giving them return of interest. At some point of time, if their exports will get jammed, as I expect them to get jammed, remember, Trump has taken out the tailpipe emission norms, so which means people will not be inclined to buy EVs. He's going to flood the market with oil. If that happens, energy rates, at least for the next 1-2 years, will go down. If that goes down, why will I go and buy a EV? I'll buy a normal vehicle. In which case, who will get hit? China. So there are problems with China which are coming up. People say China has not been tariffed. China has not been tariffed. It is being hit somewhere else. Which public voice, public speaker, public media to listen, trust on situation of Bangladeshi Hindus as of now, post August 7. Look, what I would suggest is you see everyone and take an average of all, section average. See what people say. But we are very clear that Bangladeshi Hindus are suffering. They might not be suffering as to the extent of some people are saying, but they are being discriminated and treated as second-rate citizens. On that, I have no doubt. Okay. Right. I've finished all questions. Is there any other question? Yeah, I will take. What's the hurry? What do you think how rupee will behave in the future? We are under tough times. Let's be very clear. Why has our economy gone down this quarter? Is it a sign of is it a blip, or is it a sign of lack of reforms? That's the question. Are we manufacturing enough or not? We have a lot of headroom for manufacture. All that, is the government doing the right thing or not? We have failed in getting investment. Why should we go to China to get investment when we can't, when we can get it from other countries? You see, China is seeking investment from other countries, and we are seeking investment from China. Why don't we seek investment from other countries? Why don't we make conditions good for other countries to invest here? These are the questions which we have to answer. Why did IDF chief resign post 20? Yeah, see, he is resigned taking moral responsibility. But look at it. When the thing happened, he continued till he reached a stage where Israel is now seen on the up. When he's finished the job, he said, I'm resigning. I think I hold a great respect for this man. Okay, no doubt. Uh, would China mend its atrocious attitude realizing its downfall? It will never do. Look, it will never do towards India. But in some cases, in certain things, it is changing. If you see the utterances of Chinese in the past 3 to 4 months, they've changed. There's a subtle change. They have started becoming a little more accommodative because they need the world around now. Why do you think that fellow went back from the LSE? It is because of this. Of course, there are other issues. Fundamentally, his economy is going down and he's got more enemies than friends. So he suddenly started realizing that problem. As simple as that. Yeah, I've taken that questions, JBJP. Your question on, your views on China's AI model DeepSeek. I think it's a good thing. Let's be very honest. We must be fair. I think it's a fantastic thing they've done. And that's a lesson to everyone else to do something different. They've got a lead. That lead, other companies will do what they have to do. In a matter of 6 months, it will get sorted out. After all, look, if you went back 2 years back, China was leading in AI, and people were saying US is getting, far behind. Suddenly, US with its Chat GPT and all those Cloud and all those Gemini and all that started coming up, and they took the lead. Now DeepSeek has come; they'll push. Something else will happen. This is a race which will go on. There's no doubt about it. Okay. I've not tried DeepSeek. I'll not try it also because it's a Chinese thing. I don't want any footprint or any fingerprint of mine on China in any Chinese system. So leave it at that. But it's a good thing as I see. What's your question, Amitabh? Amitesh Behra, what's your question? I missed it. Type it again. Yeah, do you think China's free open source DeepSeek AI has made the IT service sector? No, it doesn't. The race has just heated up. Look, people have invested $500 billion. It's not so easy. Yeah, have you ever visited China? No, not from Shanghai. I visited from this side. Okay, I visited across the LAC. Indian companies IPO oversubscribed many times. Need to tap that resources and less rely on fossil fuels. Yeah, I agree with you. पाकिस्तान चाइना प्रॉब्लम फिक्र मुझे मेरे मामे की नहीं अगर मैं मर गया तो मेरे दर्द का क्या होगा I like it. Yeah, that's the Pakistani and China problem. But look, I think they are autocratic regimes without a escape wall. They'll suffer. That's the way I look at it. Right? Okay. Chinese develop software in Mandarin. Is there science and technology education mainly in Mandarin? If so, what are the lessons for us? No, I don't think so. Most of them do Mandarin at the point of time and they switch to English. Okay, they might be doing their codes in Mandarin, but they must be having a converter to English, right? And well, whatever their language doesn't matter, the technology matters. They've got it in this, so let's give it to them. What is the ultimate objective of CCP in India? As any conflict will affect access to the whole world's largest consumer market. The ultimate objective of CCP in India is to ensure that India is aligned with China. China is the one power in Asia, and we follow China's footsteps and get away from the West and weaken our democracy. and keep us suppressed. That's it. As simple as that. They want to ensure that our democracy is weak, enter our markets, and use our consumers. They were successful at this story 5 years back or 10 years back. We shouldn't allow them to be repeated. Okay. I think we've. Yeah. Any chance China will throw Z out? Let's see how it. There is a couple of articles which have come out to say that, but there's no definite movement from within China. Let's see. Okay, are you reading your reading of Trump so far in wisdom versus reality? Yesterday, you listened to me what I said. What I would say, as far as Trump is concerned, look at his actions, not his talk. And yesterday, that's what I did. Whatever he spoke, what are the repercussions and what are the actions? That's what I said. So follow his actions rather than talk. Fine, done. We are done with it today. Thanks a lot for attending. Yeah, tomorrow we'll talk of Indonesia with Ambassador Gurjeet Singh. Till then, till 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. Good evening and Jai Hind to all of you.